Hi, good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Harambee 2021 digital event. My name is Matthew Phillips, and I am the Western Cape Regional Representative for Graphisoft SA. Today, we will begin this panel discussion with the role of BIM in smart cities. What would a smart city look like? How would we create one? And how would it benefit us, the people who reside in it? In an industry that's constantly evolving, how would we quantify or deliver different aspects of a smart city? And what of BIM? What role could it play in the creation of this smart city? How could BIM enhance the project's lifecycle from design to construction and the facility thereafter? Join us as we unpack some of these topics. Just think that in less than 10 years, living in a smart city could be our reality. Now, let's meet our panelists for today.
Well, good morning. My name is Calayde Davey. I'm a postdoctoral research associate at the University of Pretoria. Okay, so I'll just complete my introduction. And my role at the university is to lead the question, what is smart cities and the future of African cities, and how do we get there from a transdisciplinary perspective? So over to the other panelists.
Hi everyone, I'm Amira Dhamani. I'm Tunisian. I'm 37 years old. Basically, I'm a civil engineer, and currently I'm working as BIM Business Development Coordinator at Amira Group. We are a group of companies active principally in Africa, Tunisia, Burundi, Kinshasa, and Libya. We are specialized in construction, engineering, project management, and facility management. We also provide expertise in BIM implementation, BIM strategy, and we are a BIM certified company. And recently, we are working on development of a digital application named DigiBuild. It's an end-to-end digital construction management solution that integrates BIM, Primavera Basics, and SAP S/4HANA. So, well, I'm glad to be here today with you, and I'm very pleased to be part of this panel discussion about BIM and smart cities. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Maria Gkovedarou. I work as a programs manager for Bentley Systems. Bentley Systems is a software provider. We provide solutions to civil engineers, to infrastructure, to anything related to infrastructure, actually. And I'm a civil engineer, to be honest, but I used to be more into computer science, artificial intelligence world during my research in Cambridge University. After that, I continued this research in digital twin of roads together with Bentley in the UK. And then I found myself in some projects with Bentley about digital twins. And of course, it's a huge pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. And I'm looking forward to learn also from the rest of the speakers here today. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my experience and knowledge regarding BIM. Initially, let me start first by introducing myself. My name is Rainia Fattah. I'm a certified BIM manager with 15 years of experience. Eventually, I'm also an academic director of the BIM training programs for undergraduate and postgraduate engineer in Egypt. I've studied civil engineering before undertaking postgraduate studies in global BIM management, open BIM, and BIM implementation. I've joined many academies such as the Royal Institute Pre-Academy in United Kingdom and my master degree from University of Barcelona. It's worth mentioning that my experience with BIM goes back to 2006. I've started my career path as a design engineer, team leader, technical ops manager, and BIM project manager on major projects in Egypt and Middle East as well. That was before focusing my attention on digital transformation. My current position is a BIM manager at Cosmos Consultancy. Cosmos, which is considered as one of the biggest consultancies specialized in industrial projects, and which was one of my case studies of BIM implementation, where I was responsible for transforming the company from the traditional process to BIM process. I was given an award of excellence in 2019 for this case study. One of my main goals in my life is sharing knowledge. That is why I established my academy. It's an online educational academy, aims to enhance the knowledge for a successful BIM adoption. Finally, it's my pleasure and honor to be with you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Rainia. And thank you all, really, ladies. It is a pleasure to have you all with us. All right, so let's start with some questions. With all the technological advances we see within the AECO industry today, do you think a smart city can be created without the use of BIM? Rainia, what do you think?
Yes, well, let me illustrate a few aspects here. It's a fact that BIM for smart cities is not an option, but it has become a necessity. In details, BIM is a data-rich 3D model-based process used to design, construct, and operate building and infrastructure assets. The fundamental power of BIM is driven by fact that it's digitally represent geometry, information, and location. It's the ideal platform for smart cities. It's a platform by which all other sources of data are hosted, including physical location and geometry of the assets. Conventionally, in traditional process, some of the asset knowledge is lost. Do you know what? Let me answer. It's every time one team hands over the project to another team and so on. That's why the asset information is usually lost. Clearly, in this case, we have to collect all asset information again and again by traditional way. This leads to wastage in time, cost, and of course, reduction of the quality of information. Consequently, we don't have an accurate information model and losing as built information. Ultimately, the most important advantage of BIM is that it's facilitated collaboration and management of information and communication among project teams. Finally, when we say collaboration and information and communication, that's mean exactly smart city. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Rainia. Calayde, do you think that there's anything there that you'd like to add on to?
Yeah, so what BIM has taught us is how to work in one digital environment collaboratively. And we've learned this good, bad, and ugly over the last 20, 30 years. And we've improved a lot on it. And if you think of what we've picked up in this decades, 2-3 decades of working in virtual environments as complex teams, and you look at towards the future of cities, in other words, smart cities, BIM is actually giving us that insight that BIM is a microcosm of a smart city potential, if I can say it like that. And there's a lot of transferable lessons that we can take from the building project asset level to the city level. And there's a lot of things we might have to discard because of the scale and the complexity of cities, and a lot of new things we can introduce. But BIM has provided us a really great framework for how to behave and how to collaborate across firms, across teams, across career paths. So I think that that's the most interesting thing, is the historical lessons we can take forward from BIM into smart city.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I can definitely see how without the use of BIM, we would really struggle to create a digital twin and a smart city. Moving on, how could we use BIM processes to enhance the project's life cycle from design to construction and the facility thereafter? Amira, what are your thoughts?
Well, BIM today is the foundation of digital transformation, the implementation, and the IoT industry. The information recorded in BIM does not only help realize collaborative design, it also assists construction management by providing construction information. Today, 3D models contain all the data that we need from design, construction, cost control, procurement, and building operation. This integrated information of the project will enable to better coordination and free clash buildings. The integrated information will accelerate the design processes since design changes can be made in a very early design phase without a much impact on the cost of the project during construction. It will improve cost estimation and cost control. So I would say that this integrated information will facilitate the availability and the reliability of the information during the construction phases. We will have much better relevant visual information obtained on the construction site. Even after the construction phase is completed, integrated information of the project can be used for maintenance and facility management using digital twin models. So BIM will enable contractors, architects, engineers, and subcontractors to collaborate around unified common data environment during all different phases of the project: planning, bidding, implementation, and facility management operations. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, if there's one thing I can focus on, especially in my field, is cost reduction, and especially on construction aspect here in South Africa. That is something that we need to focus on more. Rainia, is there anything that you'd like to add?
Yes, well, this is an essential question here, everyone. As BIM can provide many benefits to a project, such as initially increase the design quality through effective analysis cycles, furthermore, greater prefabrication due to field conditions, in addition to that, improved field efficiency by visualizing the planned construction schedule, also to increase innovation through the use of digital design application. At the end of the construction phase, valuable information can be used by the facility operator for asset management and maintaining schedule to improve the overall performance of the facility, and more, and many more. Today, we already see facilities connecting BIM to other sources of data, such as construction productivity data, sensor or Internet of Things data, historical facility management data, and more. As a result, BIM is enabling the industry to design better, build better, and operate better. These are key steps in realizing the vision of a smart city. As a fact, this is achieved through visualization, integration, and automation. Thank you.
Thank you, Rainia. If there is something that you did touch on, there was the data aspect, and that leads me into my next question. You know, when I think about the
sorry, I wanted to add something. I believe that the value of BIM has been illustrated through well-planned projects. Yet there have also been examples of projects where the team did not effectively plan the implementation of BIM. This caused increased costs for modeling services and schedules delay due to missing information and little to no added value. Implemented BIM requires detailed planning for the project team members to successfully achieve the value from the available model information. Clearly, BIM can be implemented at many stages through project. The point is team should not focus on whether or not to use BIM in general, but instead they need to define the specific implementation areas and also specific BIM uses. They should aim to implement BIM at the level needed, to maximize value while minimize the cost. This required the team to selectively identify what is the exactly areas for BIM implementation and how can we plan these implementation areas in detail. Finally, I would like to inform that all values of BIM have been revealed through well-planned projects.
Thank you, Rania. All right, so what I was saying about data that comes out of a smart city, I think about the amount of data and what would be generated from a smart city. I kind of feel like there would be a robust system that would be controlling its flow. So my question is, how critical is the protection of this data? And who should be responsible for protecting, storing, or even managing it? Maria, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think, as we also said in the dry run event with Calayde, I think that this is actually the most common question. Of course, we don't want to create a smart city where citizens feel like it's Big Brother and they feel terrified by that. The thing that I notice, at least in cities like Helsinki, London, is that they have done lots of work in data collection. They lack some things in data analyzing. And of course, the data privacy, which is the most important one. And what we saw, especially during the pandemic, that data privacy and what is happening and how the citizens can feel secure. For me, when we talk about data, first of all, the most important thing is we talk about availability. So we make data available on real time to the person who is asking for it. The second most important thing is about confidentiality. For example, how can the citizens feel confident and that their data is protected? The third thing is, of course, who will be responsible? Is it going to be the governments? Is it going to be the companies that are handling the data? Is it going to be the companies that are collecting the data? Because this might be also different. From my perspective, I think governments is because these are the governments are people, the delegates of people. So I think these are the people who these are the authorities that should protect the data and should be responsible for that. But this actually leads us to the other thing, like cybersecurity, and how can we make everything more secure, and how can we put everything on cloud or ominous cloud, and how can we make everything more protected for our citizens. The thing is that I remember we had a project that was quite interesting, and I think this actually shows how this smart city can be also very be connected with BIM, because when we talk about BIM, we talk about collaboration. When we talk about smart cities, we need to talk about collaboration. And we had an excellent collaboration between the academic institution, University of Dublin, along with Dublin City Council and Smart Dublin, when they created a smart kind of like a digital twin of a city, of Dublin city. And what they did is actually they gave a say to the citizens on how they should build their city, which was actually a great example of, look, this is a building. This building is data. Actually, it's an asset. And what can we do with this building? How do you want it? Do you want it 12 stories long? Do you want it 10 stories? Do you want taller, shorter? Excuse me. And actually, this was something that it was quite nice to see how they managed to protect the data and how they managed to protect people's opinion, citizens' opinion. So yeah, I believe that governments should play a huge role on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. I was looking forward to hearing more about the cybersecurity. So thanks so much for sharing about that. Calayde, is there anything that you'd like to add to that?
Yes, I think there's a couple of distinctions that are really helpful when we talk about data. The first one is context and culture. And the second one is the hierarchies of use. And with that, I mean, what is important to share? Because at the smart city level, not everything matters as it does at the building level, right? The other thing is, there's a lot of things that you don't have same asset owners, right? At cities, you have hundreds of thousands of asset owners. And the kinds of things you could be doing with a BIM model and BIM fidelity data wouldn't matter at city scales with hundreds of asset owners with competing interests. So I think what's important to help think about is for what purpose are we making the city smart? And with that goal, how do we share data? Because not all contexts and cultures can rely on governance to achieve this kind of maturity, right? So for example, in my context and culture, the digital intelligence of the public sector is way behind the digital intelligence of the industry, right? And this lag, this gap between those two contexts of technology is a big concern when we talk about stewardship and handing data stewardship to a naive operator. And on the other hand, there's a lot to be done with open data. When we go, so it's one thing to talk about the building object asset project level space, but when you go smart city, we're talking about lots of other sources of information in the digital commons that can get us to smartness without having to have concerns over these privacy details. Lots of things in smart city are quite general concerns. Like we want general objectives. Do we do better on water or rent? Are we improving on our greenhouse gases? These general terms don't require this high fidelity security. So I think it's important that when we switch from BIM to smart city, that we take the scale and the importance and the objective with us and not think that it's the same beast. It's not the same animal. There's a bridge between them, and some things will transfer through and others will be left behind.
Thanks, Calayde. Really interesting opinion. And exactly as you said, is it required? Do we need it at this point? I really liked what you were mentioned when you mentioned the greenhouse gases. And that brings me to think a little bit more about climate change. And as climate change becomes a more pertinent aspect within the AECO industry, I wanted to know whether the artificial intelligence could be used to create not just a smart city, but an intelligent city, which is environmentally friendly. Amira, what do you think?
A smart city will know everything about you. You go to work, your office building knows exactly who is coming and going and what they need thanks to thousands of inbuilt sensors collecting data. So the energy efficient building is designed for your comfort, reacting to changes in the weather and the number of people in the building and adjusting its climate accordingly that leads to consume less energy. Wherever you sit, the lighting will adjust to suit your preferences. On the way home, you pass lamp bulbs laden with sensors and HD cameras, monitor and record the world around them 24 hours by 7 days. So we consume less electrical energy. Air quality and traffic flow data tell you the quickest and cleanest route and alert emergency services to accidents. As example, your health is flourishing thanks to your perfectly balanced diet, but you also regularly update your doctors using data sent directly from your smartwatch. They analyze it. So smart cities go hand in hand with gathering and storing huge amounts of personal data and using it through artificial intelligence to control city life and make live more eco-friendly.
Thank you. It kind of makes me feel like we're watching a sci-fi video.
Okay.
Maria, what do you think? Do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Definitely, I agree with Amira that I mean all these nice smart buildings that we have. You walk to your office and everything just lights on. It's amazing. I feel like also that with well, actually, what we can do is actually predict. Since we do have all this data, we do have collected so much data. Why not to predict what will happen in the future? So, for example. Let's say even for the traffic emissions, we are trying to create to reduce the carbon. I think this is extremely important in smart cities, how to reduce carbon. Okay, how can we do that? So what if we can predict where is the most heavy traffic area and when it's gonna be that, and then we can act and design accordingly. We can make the urban transformation accordingly. Or, for example, there was a project where we had with Highways England. Highways England is the national roads of the UK. And what we did was actually through artificial intelligence, we collected data from the roads and we managed to assess the road furniture. So we managed to see where with just a camera, where automatically, where is a road asset, like for example a pole, a light pole which has fallen, something which has been vandalized. This is something that can be considered that will reduce cost, will reduce time, will reduce definitely energy from the people that will do all the operational thing. So definitely, if we could also predict floods, for example, because I think we can. I'm coming from Greece. This is where this lovely accent is coming from, and like quite recently in Greece, we suffered a lot from floods. Preventing measures were taken, like of course, please evacuate the area. But what if we could predict that there will be a huge flood, or that with that amount of water on that area, in order to evacuate people in advance? So I think we definitely have the data, we have the solutions, we have the technology of AI. We can definitely integrate it and make to the benefit of people of smart city. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. It's great to hear that if we were to be using AI and algorithms, we would potentially be able to ward off danger and possible mitigate some of the destruction that some natural disasters could bring to our cities. So that's really interesting. In terms of energy, when I think about the amount of energy that we would require to sustain the operations of a smart city, I'd want to know how we would investigate or utilize new forms of energy. Would they be renewable? And would that be enough? Maria, what do you think?
I think I will just repeat what I said previously. I think that it's extremely important for us first, before we start. Of course, we can make a hybrid model. We can use both. We can use both renewable sources and not renewable sources. The other thing that we need to firstly to do is to reduce the existing energy that these cities consume. Actually, any city, any town, we need to reduce the amount of energy that it consumes. So, for example, we need first, of course, as I said before, to reduce the carbon from the traffic emissions, for example. We need to create more net zero traffic, zero carbon traffic zones, as we call them, I think, in the UK, where there are areas that no cars are allowed. We can definitely regulate the consumption, which is this is also extremely important. This is actually the most important use of a digital twin of a city, where, for example, you can put sensors in the building and you can actually regulate the hydration, the temperature, how much energy this building consumes, and you can regulate that, and you can have this on the click of your computer or on your hand. This is extremely important. And then definitely we can start thinking about, okay, renewable sources. There are buildings. How can we design buildings to be more renewable resources friendly, if I can put it in that way? So yeah, a hybrid environment will be the best, I think, not just one solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. And yeah, perfect answer. I loved it the first time I heard it. I loved it the second time too. Calayde, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, so the technologies that we are deploying to build smartness is incredibly cheap. The stuff I can put on the road is cheaper than hamburgers. So the idea that the technology is going to be energy hungry is completely false. It's a really, I can do the same. I can do a smart city with radio signals or AM, FM. So it's about communication. That's the point of all of this. So I think it's important to understand that the objective of smart city is very different than the objective of just data mining. The objective of smart city is to have comprehensive behavioral change in the city. So everything that Maria is talking about is not technology, it's behavioral change, reducing consumption, increasing of something, of human beings in that city. So the smartness is about the society becoming smart through technology, not the technology being AI. So I think it's very important because a lot of people think that with placing sensors and reading complex settings, that we are providing feedback loops while we're observing, right? Or assessing through observation. But that's not the goal of Smart City at all. Smart City isn't about feedback, it's about feed forward. So we want smart cities to give us that information that allow consistent good decisions to be made at societal level. In other words, to consistently choose the green option, to consistently reduce communities' consumption of water, to consistently be aware of these issues that we as a collective are going towards. Because if I was just interested in, and that brings us back to that security question, there's a lot of ways for me to go and find out information about a human being or a group or an object that doesn't require Smart City at all. And Smart City is completely about comprehensive collaboration towards societal goals. That's the ultimate aim. If it's not doing that, it's not Smart City, it's a product. And I think that's very important to understand that we are not working on products. We've already built every product that can be built, cheap and expensive, to get us there. It's about societal shifts, forwarding those decisions, not just assessing them on their own.
Thank you. I really liked how you touched on the sociology behind it all, the behavior modification and actual behavior awareness to what is required in order to make a smart city a reality. Thank you. Since last year, the world has undergone a massive shift in the way work is conducted. How has the pandemic impacted our digital transformation? Rainia, what do you think?
Yes, it's a good question. According to Dr. Plal Sukkar, he is one of my BIM role model. He mentions that the BIM field refers to the 3 domains. First is policy field, second is process field, and third is technology field. Let me start with process field. Players are those who develop, design, construct, and manufacture. They need to be trained well. Regarding technology, players are those who develop tools, the system, and software. It's a fact that the technology field develops extremely fast. The main issue that we face is when we talk about policy field, we have a shortage of players who are the professional to educate, conduct research, and create best practice, and also to develop, as Maria said, national BIM standards met our requirements. Ultimately, we have to move on and overcome these challenges, and then we can go through a smart cities approach. It's a bridge, like Dr. Calayde said. It's not the goal. It's BIM is only a bridge. Thank you.
Thank you, Rainia. If I could just say on my side, from South Africa's point of view, the digital transformation for us was a rather significant. We went from a paper only at council to now accepting digital submissions, which is a massive transformation, especially from a national level. Maria, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I actually heard very well what Rania said, and I absolutely agree. Technology is everything. I think we need to go more towards that to put all our resources there, because it's actually doesn't only enable the sustainable development goals that I think according to the United Nations, I think most of the countries have agreed to. But also, you need to put also the social factor inside. We saw that with all this COVID situation, how we should be more inclusive as a society, how we should provide to the more disadvantaged groups, for example, which is also the social part. From the technology part, it was for me it was quite funny, because I could see two examples which were quite different. One in the UK that I live at the moment, and the second one in Greece that I am from. So I could see the example of one, let's say, more digitally advanced country compared to a not so much digitally advanced country, where actually Greece ran quickly to create e-government services, so online government services we didn't have, or online healthcare system which we didn't have, or online this, online that. And it was funny to see also in the UK how everything changed in terms of mobility. So I could see photos during the pandemic, of course, and during the lockdown, and also not in the lockdown, where London, this huge metropolitan city, was empty. And you could see how this actually make a huge shift also to the real estate factors, like things have started going a little bit down in terms of properties, property prices, and everything has changed a lot. Most of the people moved more towards the outside of London area, outside of the main cities. So it was a great example, I think, for everyone to see how things can change and how technology is extremely important to put everything on track. So yeah, definitely it was a great example. Of course, it was a bad thing to happen, but it also a great example. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Yes, I can definitely say on our side that just seeing the transformation, sure, we can all agree the pandemic was extremely hard for many people out there. But it also gave us a lot of opportunities to transform and digitize many of the procedures that were often manual. Moving on, what should we be doing differently to see change on our continent with regards to legislation around BIM to reach a smart city? Calayde, what are your thoughts?
So for me, the biggest gap beyond the technology, beyond the legal framework, beyond the cybersecurity, any of those big boy topics, is digital skills aren't recognized in the industry as skills at all. In fact, we are usually using digital skills and digital intelligence as a byproduct of doing work, where at the moment, entire careers are about BIM and managing information, coordinating teams in digital, etc. So we can't really expect our legal world and our policy world to come along if we don't formally recognize these skills as professional skills. And in most of our professional environments, whether you're a project manager, or FM owner, a constructor, whatever, none of your licensing can include the recognition of these skill sets. So the upstream effect is none of the curricula can teach it. So by the time we enter the workplace, none of the employees are formally skilled up in the thing they actually need to do in the workforce. So it takes them 10 more years to get proficient at it. And then their middle management and the game's over. So I think the fundamental shift we can make is recognizing that the 21st century is a digital industry. And with that, architect, engineer, constructor, PM, operator, builder, all the way down to electrician and plumber and foreman and mason maker, all of these people will require fundamental digital intelligence as part of the vocational training and as part of the recognition as a professional. Doctors need to be on top of technology to enter the surgeon's room. Doesn't matter who they are, how old they are, where they come from. If they don't know how to perform surgery with the surgical instruments that is at hand and is recognized in the industry as the best, they cannot be doctors. And that's the kind of problem we have in our built environment sector, is we are not recognizing the fundamental skill sets of digital skills, competency, and intelligence as core to our profession. And that's the shift we should make, in my opinion.
Thank you. Yeah, mind blown. That's all I can say. Amira, would you like to add anything to this?
I would say I totally agree with Dr. Calayde, and what I can add that we can also think about introducing various levels of BIM upskilling into the educational space. So we will develop numerous exclusive partnerships with companies so that we can allow to provide this comprehensive and as relevant up-to-date information and case studies that have been already aligned with international standards within an African way of living. Consultants and companies in an operational environment can now then have a real in-depth understanding and guide to help decision makers as well as the industry delegates and governments to be more competitive based on cost and efficiency using BIM methodologies.
Thank you, Amira.
Thank you.
Last question for today. With the existing, well, let me rather say last question for this discussion. With the existing rate of implementation here in Africa, how far away do you think our industry is to achieve the smart city concept here in Africa? Rainia, what do you think?
Yeah, well, before we answer this question, please let me talk first about the BIM implementation in Africa. Unfortunately, we have a big challenge of BIM implementation in Africa. One of the biggest challenges faced by firms and organizations is lack of skills. That's why we need a BIM training institute to focus on vocational training and skill development. On another hand, the major barriers to implementation of BIM can be related to contractual issues such as licensing, insurance, etc. It's worth to mentioning that the lack of national BIM standard in Africa lead us to a big disconnect information management. It can be seen also that the UK BIM implementation case study is a successful case study that we can follow, considering the lesson learned. A good result worth mentioning here is that the UK industry is totally different from our area. So at the end, we have to design our plan, create our national standard according to our market needs or our requirements. Thank you.
Thank you, Rainia. Calayde, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Well, and I hope you guys join us for the student competition panel in middle or end of the week, because we've learned a lot of things about in Africa at the base of the pyramid, so to speak. And the thing is, there's an incredible potential talent, enthusiasm, and willingness to engage from that space. We just need to ensure long-term learning paths. And that we need to do as a community. It's not going to be the project that teaches the community. It's going to be the community that teaches the community. And the project space can only accommodate a handful of operators, right? So I think if we want to, what I'm seeing from the student competition, and I'd love you guys to come and listen to that discussion, is that lots of means and methods are being deployed, whether or not there is this aspirational goal of extreme technology. Lots of students without tech were able to produce good enough BIM for us to accept it into competition with very little means. So it's important that BIM is not just a technology, it's a culture, it's a way of working. It's a way of working that's fundamentally different from the 20th century, right? And the young teams that we saw coming through the runs are demonstrating that willingness to collaborate in a new way. So in a way, I think if we as a community open up the doors and the pathways for learning together, we will actually have an entire generation that is better than us and faster than us at building the cities of Africa. And that's kind of what I'm mostly interested in seeing happening.
Thank you, Calayde. Right, that's everything that I have with me. I do have a couple more minutes. I'm just going to touch on some questions that I've seen come through. Right, Michael asked, what do you believe is the biggest limitation to migrate or build a smart city? Is it more on the construction side or on the technology infrastructure side? Amira, what do you think?
To build a smart city or to migrate for the creation of a smart city, I think that the concept of creating a smart city is the biggest limit. So the technology, we have to consider a lot of actions like digitization, public services, or increase internet coverage and work on the technology infrastructure side, so that we can believe in creating a smart city concept in Africa in a few years or decades.
Thank you, Amira.
Yeah.
Calayde, is there anything that you'd like to add? I kind of feel that you might be adding a third option in there. What would you like to share? Sorry, you're still on mute.
This is on what's the biggest limitation to migrate or build smart cities, right?
It's the limitation, and the question is whether it's on the construction side or the technology infrastructure side.
Honestly, I'm going to say neither. The reason is I can put a very cheap instrument on any as-built building right now. I can scan this environment with my cell phone as an independent person. There's no technological obstruction. It's a willingness to understand and articulate the path. It is not a technological problem. It's not in the design. It's not in the construction. It's nothing. It's the smart city discourse is a new way of working with the built environment fundamentally. And whether or not the asset is constructed or not, whether it's a 400-year-old cathedral or whether it's a new net zero building, at the end of the day, something needs to measure the thing that we care about. And I can do that right now when I walk out the door. So it's a willingness to work together that's in the way, or a maturity in the concept and the articulation of those projects that actually matter to project teams. That is actually more important than care. The technology is, to me, almost insignificant compared to that.
Thank you, Calayde. I've got another question here from Jean Furi. How will a smart city be protected from ransomware attacks or similar threats, resulting in systems downtime or possible sensitive information being compromised, locations and vehicle information, etc.? Who will be responsible for the protection of the systems and the maintenance? I know this was a question that we did highlight earlier in the discussion, but Maria, if you'd like to touch on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as we said previously, it's the most common question we get when we talk about smart cities. It's data. What are we going to do with all this data collection, and who is going to handle the data, and how can I feel protected? As I said before, I think that there is different. We have to distinguish between the data collection, the data analyzing, data privacy. These are three different aspects of data, and I think there are too many more, but I'm just cannot think of them at the moment. Also, I think that well, the first people that come to my mind is governments. We don't want another Facebook attack or something like that. We don't want another Big Brother Big Brother governments that are watching us and so on. But we also need to feel protected, and we also need to understand that in order to go forward, we need to provide ourselves with. So what the citizens need to understand, it's not that there are some bad people behind the cameras that are trying to learn what is happening and how they are doing it, and to get into their private life. It's mostly like we need to provide what we want to provide, or the data we want to provide. This is also why we have this European legislation about data privacy at the moment, which was, I think, it was conducted in 2016, 17. I can't remember. And we talk about data privacy and how we are responsible to how we are going to distribute the data of ourselves. But also at the same time, governments, this is how, for example, European Union made this constitution about data privacy. So I believe, yes, we want data governments to be very careful of the data of the citizens to feel more protected. So because we want citizens to feel secured. Otherwise, why are we going to have smart cities if we don't have secured and smart citizens?
Thank you, Maria. Another question that I've got here from Ryan Youssef. What is the future of BIM in Africa, especially in Western and Central Africa? I think, Amira, that is within your region. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think that the development of BIM in Africa has been accelerating. As we, as a company, especially a group, we are working on different places in Africa. We are adapting BIM, and we are working with large projects and construction with the use of BIM, and even that the client or the architect with us is working with that, and they want to adapt the BIM on the construction phase and the facility management. We have now a lot of projects adapting BIM, and we think that the development of BIM in Africa have been known a huge transformation this year for us.
Thank you, Amira. Is there anything that you'd like to add, Rainia?
No, thank you.
All right, not a problem. I do have one last question here from Ryan Youssef. I'd just like to tell you, the question is, how do you incorporate BIM into road design and construction to reduce the accident rate on our roads in Africa? I'd just like to note, Ryan, that there is a presentation that's going to be done on this, these questions later on this week. So I think instead of us answering it now, the presentation might be a better stage. Come and join us a little bit later on in the week and you'll get your answer. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us in this discussion. Please note that the recording of this session will be available after the 27th of October on the Harambee website. That's everything on our side. I do hope you enjoyed this discussion. Thank you, everybody, for attending, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for the talk.